was all so strange. People would say, "You don't look Chinese, you look American."
There was a girl, a young girl, 14 years old, living in New York with her mother. She had friends, went to school, studied art, and like most young girls, busied herself with the process of growing up. To her friends and family, she spoke about school and having fun on the weekends. What she didn't tell anyone was what she really felt inside. These important things she shared with one friend, and one friend only, her diary.
Some of my friends are so stupid, and if they call me fortune cookie one more time, it's so stupid, and I'm so bored.
How long would she have to wait for something adventurous to happen? Something extraordinary? A whole lifetime, or you are going on a long journey?
Dear Diary, my dad calls me in the middle of the night and says, "Jennifer, I want you to come to China. We're going to search for something special, something very special. The trip has got to be now." But why? I wonder what it is.
Passport, clothes, suitcases. No time to stop and think about it. No time to be afraid. Only pack, Jennifer. Join your father halfway around the world.
Only time for one kiss from my mother, and one last look in the mirror, Jennifer. Okay, here we go.
Morning.
Dad was in Borneo with a film company. He got the idea to go to China and called me to join him. He didn't say much more.
Your father, Jennifer? Tell me about him.
My dad. He owns a store in New York and rents video equipment. He uses his camera all the time to record what he sees. Dad said, "Come to China," and nothing more. Yet I know from his voice how important it is, but I don't know why.
What is it that he's looking for?
I'm not sure. I really don't speak Chinese.
For the first time, Jennifer realizes how little Chinese she knows.
I can't speak it. That's okay. Dad does. So does my grandpa and grandma and all the other relatives on my dad's side. I mean, I am Chinese, even though I don't speak Chinese. Well, really, I'm half Chinese. No, I am Chinese. Yes, I am Chinese. I know I don't look like most Americans. Sometimes, even though I am American, I don't really feel American. My name is Louis, and in my class pictures, I'm the easiest to find. My dad's name isn't Bob or John, but Chi-Ten.
A child cries.
I'm a little afraid too, but I don't cry. My dad taught me that.
May 31st, flying over the Pacific. Jennifer has been on planes for almost 24 hours.
There's a movie, but I've seen it before. I'd sleep, but I'm too excited.
There is no one to talk to but...
Diary, You're the only one I have to talk to. But I don't know what to write.
June 1st. Jennifer lands in Shanghai.
My dad waits for me there. He smiles a little. We don't fall all over each other like people do in the movies. We don't need to. We know how happy we are to see each other.
June 2nd.
This morning, I had a strange experience. In my sleep, I heard many voices and I thought many people were in my room. I was afraid to open my eyes. It felt very early. And when I eventually opened my eyes for a peek, I saw it was dawn and there was no one in my room. Then, where were all these voices coming from? From everywhere. From the streets, from the room next door. Everywhere. People. Yet they sound so close, on top of me, with me. The sound of millions of people. The sound of China.
Across from the hotel, people are practicing for the Chinese opera. Some do Tai Chi. They move with grace and familiarity, recreating ancient stories Jennifer does not understand.
Dear Diary, when I ventured outside, I felt I was not in another country, but in another world. Everything is so different. The size of things, the smell of things. It was hot. Very hot. Did I mention we're in Shanghai? We walk around Shanghai looking at stores. People stare at us. I guess our clothes give us away. We're confusing and interesting. Are we Chinese, they wonder? Are we making a movie? My dad doesn't say much, but he's thinking very hard. We have relatives in Shanghai, but at first we don't contact them.
Your father must be doing something very important to him.
Jennifer, these tapes of Shanghai are for your grandmother and grandfather. They will remember these streets and remember growing up here. Do you remember the large store we saw, the old one? On top of the store was a club. Your grandfather used to take us there when I was about 7. It was fun to go there.
So that's it. That's why we looked at these stores for so long.
From now on, Jennifer, you must be more inquisitive.
My dad is in China for a reason. Whatever it is.
It must be very important.
Maybe he sees something different from the tourist who snaps a photo of every pagoda or Buddhist monk.
Today we go to the home of Ping Hai, my brother. Maybe he will know.
Know what, Daddy?
Here, Jennifer, look at this.
One more attempt at a family tree. Every time they go over it, Jennifer sighs because so often the names and the relationships change. Later that day, Jennifer and her father arrive at number 83, Tolan Road.
Ping Hai and his family treat us like movie stars. We all had dinner together at home to celebrate our arrival. They asked me to serve the soup. Oops, hope I don't spill it. I want to make a good impression. Later, neighbors come over to see us with their little daughter. Even though the little girl has never seen a camera before, she sings a little song with no fear or self-consciousness. The next day, we went to Shanghai Park. It was very beautiful. I had my first chance to take some pictures. After last night's meal, my uncle thought it would be a good idea to weigh ourselves. How much do I weigh? I'll never tell. That night, we all went out to dinner to a real Shanghai restaurant. Food was very good, and like every Chinese meal, we ordered many dishes and shared.
Jennifer, why do so many people in the restaurant seem to be eating the same thing?
Oh, Daddy explained it to me. It's not like New York where any kind of food is available at any time all year round. Here you eat what they have, what's available.
June 9th.
I feel a little more at home today because Daddy took me shopping. I love shopping. We started off in the best scissor store in Shanghai. Daddy says their scissors are so famous that the store is known throughout all of China.
Jennifer wasn't surprised that her father stopped in every store that sold recording equipment. Electronics was his love from when he was a boy.
We also went to one of the most famous cloth stores in Shanghai. The store is very old, and the wool is of the highest quality. Daddy remembers this place. When he was very young, grandfather and grandmother had several suits made for him with a cloth from this store. All day long, Daddy kept repeating,
Jennifer, tell me what you see.
I would say, I see a small shop with souvenirs. I see a bookstall with small magazines and children reading Chinese comic books. And I see a clothing store with young girls searching for that one special, ready-to-wear dress, hoping it would fit her. The outdoor markets of Shanghai were wild. So many people. Well, when you don't have a refrigerator, you don't go shopping for the week. You buy just for that day, or two at the most. Daddy, now it's your turn. What do you see?
Now I see food in abundance, and there's some food for all. But when I was a boy, I often came to this market, doing where there was not enough food. That is what I see when I remember.
There was a woman pouring rice into a folded bamboo leaf.
What a great idea. And what a pretty package it made. Speaking of packages, There are no bags or shopping bags in this market. People even bring their own string to tie their fish.
Jennifer, look. Nothing is wasted in China. These people clean the fish free of charge, just so they can sell the scales and skin, which is used to make silver paint.
The lady cleaning the fish thought it was funny that we stopped to take her picture, but didn't buy anything. And eels. I feel more Chinese, not American, when it comes to eating eels. It tastes great. It's not like you're eating a snake. It's more like, well, none of my friends would ever try eating eels when I took them to Chinatown back home. Whenever I wanted to shock them, I'd eat an eel right in front of their faces. Everyone stares at us.
It's the cameras. It's the clothes. They're so different.
I want to say, it's all right. Don't be afraid of me. I'm just like you. I'm Chinese. But I don't even know how to say I'm Chinese in Chinese.
Hurry, Jennifer. We must go back to the neighborhood of Pinghai.
And so they left the market and the staring people and went back to Pinghai's.
There is a neighbor there who remembers your grandfather.
He was anxious to speak to us, so Daddy set up the camera and let the old man talk.
I remember when your father went away to work on a ship and never came back. I'm so excited to see you. I remember when your mother took you to Hong Kong. During the Cultural Revolution, we suffered. They took away our property. The Red Guards came and searched my house, and my daughter said something very trivial, something personal about a dispute we were having in our family, nothing political. And for this reason, they humiliated my mother. They took away many things from my family. They burned paintings. I was so sad. They burned so many books and even took my radio. After the Cultural Revolution, the government admitted this was wrong and some things were returned to me, but not everything. Yes, my mother was beaten and forced to do hard labor. She is still alive. Tell your father I say hello. I would like to see him and your mother very much.
I am confused and sad. Can't think of anything but what the man in Shanghai said. I can't write about it.
June 11th. As Jennifer and her father walked not far from the hotel,
I saw the most interesting thing today. A young man set up a little table and started to model something from clay, just like I had done when I was in kindergarten. But what he did was amazing.
Jennifer's father then told her that the artist wasn't using clay at all,
but using flour and sugar to make little toy dolls.
Patiently, quickly, the boy worked, rolling, pinching, poking at the dough, forming gods and characters from the Chinese opera. He worked non-stop, not shyly, but confidently. He knew exactly what he was doing. So much concentration on such a tiny, beautiful thing. So many effects, so many techniques with the dough, and so tiny. How complicated a thing, even a little doll. Every small color added by hand, with skill and care.
Staring at the sugar man, I thought how complicated a person is. Like bits of flour, sugar, water, and dashes of color coming together a little at a time. How much I am like the sugar man. Bits from here and bits from there. Some from my mother and some from my father. Some from the United States and some from China. Do those mounds of flour and sugar know how charming they will be when the sculptor is finished?
No more than you will know how different you will be when you leave China.
asked Daddy how much the sugarmen cost. About 2 cents. 2 cents? The boy had been working for almost an hour.
Jennifer wanted to buy them all to take back to the United States, but Chi Tian said no. In the heat of China, the dolls last only a few days before they spoil.
I was sad and a little disappointed. I wanted the dolls to last. They were so beautiful. They will, Daddy said. I will photograph them, and you will sketch them. So they will live longer than the craftsman ever dreamed. That made me feel a little better.
June 13th. On the way to Hongchu, Jennifer borrowed the family tree her father drew and tried to piece together what little she remembered.
My father met my mother in New York, and they were married. My mother's American, and she's an artist. She paints and draws. I want to be an artist too. My grandfather's called the captain, because he was a captain for many commercial shipping lines.
All the captain's family was from the city. Grandmother was from the country.
Oh, by the way, that's me.
June 14th, Jennifer and Chi Tian visit the temple and tomb of Yu Fei.
Everyone in China knows the story of Yu Fei.
He represents the Chinese virtue of patriotism, love of country over love of family. He also trained his sons to put their country before the family. It occurs to Jennifer that because the Chinese love their families so much, it is especially hard for them to put anything else first. The temple honoring Yu Fei is very beautiful, but also disturbing. In gates like cages are statues of a couple. They are the most hated couple in China because they betrayed Yu Fei and caused his death. For this reason, they're remembered kneeling and humiliated, and people are invited to spit on them.
I suppose the wicked couple got what was coming to them. It certainly was a harsh punishment, also a messy one. The people who work at the temple thought so too. That's why there's a little pot next to the statues. If you want to show your contempt for the betrayers of Yu Fei, you spit in the little pot.
Jennifer and Chi Tian stayed a long time at the temple. Yu Fei's motto was, "Give me my land back." And this saying is as famous for the Chinese as "Give me liberty" or "Give me death" is for Americans. Over the years, through many wars and troubled times, the motto, "Give me my land back," was repeated over and over with great emotion.
Give me my land back. Is this why my father came to China?
People believe there is a special energy to the tomb of Yu Fei, a magnetism which is so strong that it can hold coins to a stone wall. An idea slowly forms in Jennifer's mind.
The energy which draws Daddy back to China is like the energy of Yu Fei's tomb. Did my dad come to China to look for something? Or is something pulling him back? And is this tomb a clue?
June 15th, Jennifer and Chi Tian visit the captain's brother in Hongchu.
The captain's brother, my great-uncle, lives in a modern apartment.
He is very proud of the modern furniture in the bedroom. And the new washing machine. Jennifer, your uncle is a big man. unusual in China.
He keeps looking at my face and smiling, and saying something I don't understand. I asked another relative what he said, and a cousin translated.
He said, "If I look at you from a certain angle, you could almost look Chinese."
At first I'm embarrassed, then angry. What does he mean, almost look Chinese? I mean, who else would I look like?
Jennifer's cousin wanted to say a few words, so Chi Tian set up his cameras and she spoke.
Long ago, when my father was young, he loved to have fun. He was proud to become a communist. But during the political campaigns of the 50s, he made a so-called mistake, and his character changed for a while. He became quiet and careful. When we wanted to talk to him about something, he would say, "Be careful, learn from my mistake." I remember the day the guards came. They found the magazines the captain sent us, which my father loved to read. They thought my father was doing something wrong because he had foreign magazines, and they put him in jail for 2 years. Now, after the Cultural Revolution, his reputation, his party membership was restored, and his job was rearranged, and the government gave him a new apartment. We are so glad to see our father happy again in his old age.
Chi Tian, we're all getting older. And now I see why it is so important for you to come back to China, to trace back the history of our family. Your father, living abroad, must miss the family very much. Jennifer is so pretty. She looks almost Chinese. But she wears glasses, so she seems a little different. I'm glad she is going to art school, but wouldn't it be better if she went to art school here, in Hongchu? We would see each other much more often. Please say hello to all my relatives in the United States, even if I don't remember all their names. That's all I want to say. Jennifer was shocked and saddened by what her relatives in Hongchu told her. What was this cultural revolution? And what, if anything, did it have to do with culture?
Jennifer, the Cultural Revolution was a time of great suffering and political upheaval for China. What is important, however, is that the time is past, that our relatives survived. Because of the decision of the captain and the courage of my mother, you and I were spared such a time.
Dear Diary, I've been thinking about my family ever since I've been here. I've never met so many strangers whom I don't understand and who turn out to be my family. It's all so interesting.
June 24th.
I never realized how shy I am. Everywhere we go, Daddy says, "Jennifer, stand there. Jennifer, sit there. I want to take your picture." And I say yes, but I don't want to smile. I feel awkward. Sometimes he points a camera at me, and I look the other way. Daddy says the people here think it's an honor to have your picture taken, but one thing's for sure, I will never be a movie star.
Come on, Jennifer. We're going to my old school, the one I went to when I was a boy.
How exciting! I can't wait to see what school would look like in China. How different would it be from my school in New York?
Jennifer, children of this class will never have to wear eyeglasses when they grow up because of these very special eye exercises.
And guess what? All the way to China to hear an English class. wish I'd learned to speak Chinese.
I saw a man stealing from a shop. I gave a shot, and he jumped on me. That's that. You did the right thing.
As the days go by, Chi Tian leads Jennifer through many places in and around Shanghai. He points the eye of his camera at the many facets of everyday life in China.
Dear Diary, another time, my father saw two birds in the air, and even though we were late for dinner, he stopped everything and set up his camera. While he shot a train passing slowly in front of us, he suddenly began to tell me this strange story.
Jennifer, my mother and I fled China on a train just like that. Many refugees were also on the train trying to escape. Planes were sent to bomb the train. Several times we left the train to hide. That's how close the bombs were. We were in the field hiding. For hours and hours, the planes fired into the fields. Slowly, we came out of our hiding places into the sunlight. We were still frightened. Then someone saw two dots in the sky. The bombers were back, someone shouted. And we all ran and hid. Next, there was laughter. The dots turned out to be two birds. This time, we came out our hiding places with smiles, and we hugged each other. It was all a joke, the lie told to make us happy again.
June 27.
We're going to the country. Already I'm smiling. No more buildings crowding in on us. No more voices waking me up at dawn.
No more waiting on lines. No more kitchen smells and food smells. No traffic. Out of the crowded, bustling city.
We're going to the country. To the relatives of my grandmother.
To fields and water and flowers and no pavement. To fresh air and open skies. To the country near Suzhou.
Dear Diary, we traveled up a maze of man-made canals. Some of them over 2,000 years old, with names I couldn't pronounce. I felt I was entering another new world, where few outsiders have ever been. I wondered if we were getting close to what Daddy brought me here for. We're a big deal in Suzhou, no doubt about it. A crowd of people met the boat, and for a minute, I felt like one of those explorers you see in the movies, visiting people who think you're a god or something. But that's how they treated us sometimes, like we arrived from the moon.
But what must it be like for them? How would you feel if you had never even seen a camera before? If America was one of those places you read about, but had no hope of ever visiting? If all your life you lived and worked in the same place and never traveled more than a day's journey from where you were born, and then one day relatives come from the United States, the other side of the world.
Maybe I'd run down to the river and see what's going on too.
This commune is a busy place. The principal task of the commune is, of course, farming. But recently, the government allowed them to do a little farming on their own, which brings in extra money. This appealed to the commune very much. The leaders were very pleased to show Jennifer and Chi Tian their crops.
Is that what I think it is?
Jennifer, it's called 西瓜, watermelon back in the United States.
I couldn't believe it. Watermelon. Something I never expected to see in China. It kind of made us laugh. I just had to take a picture of it.
July 1st.
Something weird happened today. One of the officials showed us the house that used to belong to my grandmother.
Chi Tian had learned that the house was now used as a school. But amazingly enough, when Jennifer and her father went there were no desks, no students. The house was empty, except for a few pieces of furniture.
One of the men showed us every inch of the house, explaining how it could easily be put back the way it was, and that of course the house was still ours. And if the family came back to China, we could have everything back.
Everything, including the furniture which the commune leaders had pulled out of storage and which Jennifer's father recognized. There it was, the single object which Chi Tian Lui remembered above all others, the precious vase which had rested on a table near his childhood bed. They had found the family's furniture and remembered it accurately. Quickly, they had moved everything in and out.
I didn't know what to think. I get the feeling that they would like our family to move back. Dear Diary, the funniest thing happened at dinner. I was sitting there enjoying myself when I noticed I was the only female at the table with all these men. All the other women were standing around serving food, smiling, waiting on the men. I began to wonder if I wasn't breaking some kind of rule. Weren't women allowed to eat with the men? No one said anything. Or maybe they did, and I didn't understand.
Jennifer decided she didn't care if they thought she was a modern woman. She was going to eat with her father.
Period. End of issue. But wait till the commune starts reading about women's lib. Oh, brother. Dear Diary, I was wrong about the privacy. Here in Suzhou, it is quieter, but when I wake up in the morning, 20 faces stare at me through the open window. I feel like something out of Sleeping Beauty. I love all the animals here.
The pigs.
Everyone's so proud of the pigs.
And the chickens.
The poor chickens. They put a feather in the chicken's nose, so they're so uncomfortable, they won't sit on the eggs and hatch them. I wouldn't sit very still with a feather in my nose either.
The rabbits.
Diary, today they showed me some beautiful but strange rabbits. Angora rabbits. They were so cute, but silly looking at the same time. Somehow, they made me want to walk away and be alone. But you can't be alone in China. Oh, Diary, the rabbits made me think. Who am I? When I started this trip, I felt Chinese mostly, and American only a little.
But here, no one thinks you are Chinese, and everyone calls you the American.
So where do I fit in? Or am I like that little rabbit? Not this, and not that.
Patience, Jennifer.
I have no answer. And I'm going to stop writing because being sorry for yourself doesn't make for good reading. And there's nothing to do about this anyway.
July 3rd.
One of the commune leaders lined all the relatives up and explained who they were and how they were related to us.
This is your cousin. She is not married, but she has a boyfriend. Maybe she will marry soon.
I love Suzhou, and I can tell my father does too. He smiles at bridges he remembers running over. Boats, just like the ones he used to play in. Even the katydids, sort of like crickets. Children use them like toys.
Look, Jennifer, that boat. My mother and I would travel for 4 days to Shanghai in a boat just like that. In this spot, right here, I fell into the river. I would have drowned if one of the neighbors didn't pull me out.
They would have stayed longer had they not met a woman Chetian remembered as a housekeeper in his father's house.
My dad spoke to her for a long time and pretended not to be excited. Did you find it, Father? Did you find what you were looking for?
Chetian only smiled. And so they left Suzhou and traveled to Beijing, the capital of China, formerly Peking.
Daddy told me many stories about this great city. So many tourists go there.
For the food, for the history, to see the summer palace.
Dear Diary, my dad is searching for something very special. I'm sure of it now.
What is it that he's looking for? July 7. Jennifer and Chetian look in an old neighborhood for a tired house. Once it could have been a mansion. Now many families live in it.
My father sees a number on the wall. He checks again. We're here, he says.
I recognize it. The design of the balcony. Yes, this is it. This is the house of your great-great-grandfather. Jennifer, he goes as far back as anyone in our family can remember. He is our oldest known ancestor. He is our oldest history. He lived in a China that no longer exists. I do not know if he was a great man. I know he was wealthy. He was a judge, and this was his house.
I like my Peking relatives who live in great-great-grandfather's house. The husband works in a factory. The wife worked in the kindergarten all her life and just retired. She's unusually heavy for a Chinese woman. She says that certain medications make her heavy. But I think she just likes to eat. She was certainly happier and more lively when she cooked for us than when she told us about her retirement. It looks like my aunt is going to give me a lesson in Chinese cooking. I love watching her cook. She really knows her way around the kitchen. I don't know whether I'll ever be able to make a Chinese meal myself. I sure can't wait to eat.
That night, the family celebrated Jennifer and her father's arrival with a big dinner. Dumplings, soup, and Peking duck.
We were all so happy to be together.
After dinner, they looked at a real treasure.
Better than the movies. Photographs, pictures, moments frozen in time from the history of my family.
Look, Jennifer, your grandfather and grandmother a long time ago.
How different they look. Someday, I would love to have those photographs.
Jennifer, I remember the day this picture was taken. Here is the captain, your grandfather, as a young man. The captain's brother, your great-uncle, he died when he was very young. There they are on the captain's ship. There's a grandmother, and your great-grandmother, she went to a university when she was young. Very unusual for the time. And the judge again. The judge's funeral. And there's me as a boy. I made that little car myself. The captain again. And here, Jennifer, our family.
The photographs were so beautiful, so full of precious memories, that I was sure this was what my father was looking for. What a disappointment when he told me it wasn't.
July 9th.
Dear Diary, we went to the Summer Palace again today. There was so much to see and do. At lunchtime, I was thinking, will my father ever find what he's looking for? He never seems to stop searching. Maybe there's a clue in the things he stops and photographs.
People doing simple things. Beauty. Design. Branches against the sky.
That's the part of him that's an artist. But the most curious thing is how often he photographs words. Sometimes I'll ask the meaning, and he'll say, I don't know.
Jennifer, I'm not trying to hide anything from you. Those characters are very old. You know how hard it is to understand Shakespeare? And he wrote only a few years ago, maybe 300. Jennifer, consider that these characters are hundreds, sometimes thousands of years old. I simply don't understand them.
Then why bother taking pictures of them?
Jennifer, look at the strokes. Look at the shapes. Look at the emotions in the lines. Western people make paintings and write words under the paintings. Chinese letters are paintings. Abstract paintings.
So that's why you photograph them?
Yes, Jennifer. Because they are so beautiful.
July 12th.
I love the old temples, the shapes, and the colors.
Jennifer, what about the woman?
Today, I saw a woman do the most amazing thing. As she went from statue to statue, she bowed over and over, showing her reverence to the gods. My father filmed the whole ritual. He had a serious, thoughtful look about him. When he caught me watching him, he said,
Jennifer, we have not yet found what I'm looking for.
It's not in Peking.
No, Jennifer. I'm afraid it may be lost. You know, we have one last chance to find what we're looking for.
Father, please, tell me what it is we're looking for.
For the tomb, Jennifer. We came to honor the tomb of our great ancestors. There is a cousin. Her mother knew your great-grandfather. Maybe she knows where it is.
I know where it is. In a field near Suchu. The tomb, I have seen it. And your name is there. Louis.
July 14. They went back to the country, another hot day, and there are no clouds in the sky.
We come to a field. It's farmland, and doesn't look like a cemetery at all. Many graves were destroyed, and we can't even be sure that the tomb is still here. The farmers are suspicious of us. They're not sure they want us here. And even a little goat treats us like we're trespassing.
A man at the side of the road silently restores the writing on an ancient tomb marker.
So up the hill we climb. It didn't take us very long. And there it was. Great-great-grandfather's tomb. And there was our name, my name, Louis. Daddy, is this what you were looking for?
Yes, Jennifer. And because you're 14, and because you have come to a time in your life where you must know who you are, I have brought you here for something important.
Then my father, who's not a religious man, did something totally unexpected. He went to the tomb and bowed. And I, even though I didn't fully understand why or what it meant, but because my dad wanted me to, I honored my ancestors too. I don't like to say goodbye. It always feels like getting up and leaving before the movie is over, or writing half a sentence, or leaving a drawing unfinished. I think about everything I've seen and done.
Who are you, Jennifer? Do you know? Have you written it? Have you drawn it? Have you learned?
I have so many memories of China, so many images and impressions. I'm too young to draw wise conclusions about everything I've seen. My English teacher would say, try to summarize in one sentence the main point of the story. China can't be summarized in one sentence. But the most important thing I've learned is that I'm an American with a rich Chinese heritage. A heritage I will always cherish, and as the Chinese would say, honor. I'm a link between an ancient world and a new one. And my story, however small, is both my own and everyone's. I'm not sure I'd want to live in China. Maybe, for a while. But I love China. and I want to go back many times. After all, I've got family there.